Hey Furies, today we're going to talk about a fascinating topic. Yes, of course, we're talking about mathematics. We'll be doing addition, subtraction, division, multiplication.
Clue number 9!
What news from the Rittermark? Clue number 13.
Yes, it's... How did you know it's clue number 13?
Oh, you know, you're missing an arm.
I'm not missing an... Oh, so I am. It's How to Train Your Dragon 3. We have a title.
By golly, we have to talk about this right now. It's true, we have a title, though this isn't actually the title. This is a bus ticket. Revealed by DreamWorks just a few days ago, we know that the third movie will be called How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. What does it mean? Where is it hidden? What is hidden? But actually, even more than that, we have a synopsis, a small description of what will happen. And I feel kind of deceptive because we've had this quite a while and I've just never really talked about it because I never really wanted my channel to be kind of one of those ones that makes a huge deal about every little bit of news about the show or the movie that's about to come out. I didn't want to hype it up, I wanted to wait until we had something more substantial, and now we do. That synopsis reads that as Hickson fulfills his dream of creating a peaceful dragon utopia, Toothless's discovery of an untamed, elusive mate draws the Night Fury away. When danger mounts at home and Hickup's reign as village chief is tested, both dragon and rider must make impossible decisions to save their kind. There is a lot to break down here. I mean, what is this impossible decision that they're talking about? Well, I actually think I have a pretty good idea of what that will be. But first, let's go through what we absolutely know about How to Train Dragon 3, the things we know for definite, before we kind of get into, you know, what might happen or hypothetically could happen. 1. The villain of the movie will be a man by the name of Grimmel the Grizzly, voiced by F. Murray Abraham. 2. Toothless will find a female Night Fury, which not only means that he's not the last of his kind, but probably means that they're not going to go extinct. That's right, who wants Night Fury babies? Babies? And 3, we know that the movies will end in a similar way to the books, because Dean DeBlois, the director of the movie, has said on occasion that we're gonna take the story to where the books begin, which is Hiccup as an adult reflecting back on a time where there were dragons, suggesting that the dragons will in some way go away. But I want to talk about the books for a second, and I know I don't usually talk about the books on this channel because they're vastly different to the TV show and the movies. I mean, they pretty much share names, but the stories are different, the villains are different, but what happens in the books may actually help us interpret the title, The Hidden World. So the final book in the series is called How to Fight a Dragon's Fury, and because they might end in a similar way, I'll just summarize what happens. So there's this dragon called Furious who is leading a dragon rebellion with the hopes of wiping out or taking over humanity. In the movies, dragons and humans have a pretty difficult time of coexisting with one another, and Hiccup wants to stop all of the war and fighting between them and negotiate a peace. So he goes to meet with Furious when a witch by the name of Excelinor turns up and stabs Furious with a poisoned blade. With the dragon rebellion kind of defeated, the dragons decide, and this is the important part, they decide to go into hiding until a time in which humans and dragons can peacefully coexist together. Is this what's going to happen in the third movie? Well, we can't know for sure, but I think that the broad strokes of the story will be the same. They can't be exactly the same because the setup in the story is just entirely different. We don't have a bunch of characters that we would need, and there's like this whole story with the king's lost things, and yeah. Though we do know one specific thing. Dean DeBlois has talked about the very last scene of the movie, what that will probably be. He says that it'll be the same as the opening of the first book, looking back on his life and saying that there were dragons when I was a boy. You'll have to take my word for it, for the dragons are disappearing so fast, they may soon be extinct. To which I'm sure all of you are going, what? No, dragons! So the director has said that how they disappear, what happened, and whether or not they could come back is going to be the story for the third movie, which gives them a lot to play with. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the third movie is called The Hidden World, and the dragons will go into hiding at the end of the story. My personal interpretation of it is that this hidden world that it's talking about is going to be where the dragons go at the end of the story. Well, they could all be killed, but I don't think that's nearly as likely. But I don't think it'll just be a place that appears at the end of the story for the dragons to go away to. No, it wouldn't make sense to me that they'd name the entire movie for it, they'd have it as its subtitle, unless it was a place that was really critical to the story. Now we know from the synopsis that Toothless will find another Night Fury, and that is of course going to be a massive plotline for them to explore. But the question that's been bugging me is, where? Hiccup and Toothless have searched the entire archipelago for even a sight of night furies, but they've found nothing. No skeletons, no eggs, no signs that they existed at all. One option is that Toothless will go away to the far corners of the world, to where night furies may have come from, and if you want to know where that might be, then click the link up in the corner of the screen. But in the context of what we know about the third movie now, I think it's more likely that Toothless will find this new mate inside the hidden world. And where might Toothless find this hidden world? Well, in the books, the dragons go away to the northern oceans, but that's probably not possible with what we know about the dragons in the movies. I think it's more likely that it's, say, a hidden island that humans can't get to, or underground, like you see in, I don't know, is it Ice Age 3? I think it's likely that that half of the story, that Toothless's half of the story, will be set in this hidden world. But what will lead up to this disappearance into the hidden world? Well, I think that's what the synopsis is talking about. Let's go look at it again. When danger mounts at home and Hiccup's reign as village chief is tested, both Dragon and Ryder must make impossible decisions to save their kind. And Dean DeBlois also said that we're always very conscious to make sure the threads we're pulling forward are from the first film and paying off in the second, are also embedding storylines for the third. Both Dragon and Ryder must make impossible decisions to save their kind. Just as in the books, I think it's likely that the dragons will have to go into hiding to protect themselves from mankind. And it's interesting that DreamWorks have said that they laid the foundations for the third movie in the first and the second. So let's look at what that might mean. So while Hiccup and all of Berk, as we saw in the first movie, come to love and cherish dragons, we saw very clearly in the second movie that that was not the case throughout the rest of the world, throughout the majority of the rest of the world. Most people still hated, enslaved, and killed dragons, and the question will become in the third movie, I think, how can dragons live in a world where humans still think about them like that? Hiccup was able to change Berk, but I don't see him changing the world anytime soon. And Grimmel, the villain that we know is from the third movie, I think will represent this mentality about dragons. And that's how he'll test Hiccup as chief. Hiccup can't defend and protect every dragon in the world. And Hiccup's first and foremost responsibility is to his people, to Berk, of course. I mean, he's the chief. That's what he has to do, and I reckon a large part of his character growth in the third movie, as we sort of see him start to adjust into it in the second, with him becoming chief at the end of the movie. Likewise, just as Hiccup became chief, Toothless became the alpha of all dragons. They have both become leaders of their respective kind, with responsibilities to protect and defend them, to make decisions that are better for the community and not just themselves. And you can see the struggle with Hiccup in the beginning and throughout the course of the second movie.
I've decided
to make you chief!
It's not me, Astrid.
This is where the impossible decision will come in. My interpretation of all of these clues is that Grimmel will pose a threat to the dragons. That means that the dragons will have to go into hiding in the hidden world. And Toothless and Hiccup will realize that they need Toothless, their alpha, to lead them there. And Hiccup, being the chief of Berk, can't go with him. That's what I think will be the impossible decision. To stay together and doom dragon kind, or to separate from one another. And that interpretation is sort of confirmed by DreamWorks. Both he and Toothless are now chiefs of their respective tribes, and it's a dueling story where you have both characters trying to do what's right for their kind, and the eventual outcome where Hiccup is able to stand on his own. Hiccup standing on his own means without Toothless, and likewise, Toothless standing on his own means without Hiccup. If this is going to be the story of the third movie, then it'll be heartbreaking.
Your face is hot.
Damn right. That is all from me. Question of the day, which is your favorite story that features a dragon that isn't How to Train Your Dragon? Let me know down in the comments below. In the meantime, I'd love you to come support me over on Patreon. If you can, you get videos early, you get to talk to me more, that sort of thing. Otherwise, come follow me over on Twitter or Facebook, or email stuff that you made in the address and links in the description below. Stay nerdy, sub-furies, and I will see you in the future.